Boxstead Air Base, Colchester, England. Ready room for the 407th Bomb Squadron of the 92nd Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force. June 8th, 1943, 1400 hours. So, in short, about 5 years ago, in fact almost exactly 5 years ago, like 5 years and 3 days at time of recording, I did a special in which I picked out a mission from this Big Bird scripted campaign in the B-17 for IL-2 and, well, flew that mission. That video is my most viewed of all time, and frankly, it's not very good, so what I've decided to do is to pick out a different mission and fly it, and possibly do some other missions from this campaign now and then as one-off specials. I probably won't do the whole thing per se, but we'll see. The principal difference from last time is that I want to fly this on at least nearly full realism. So in terms of the realism settings, I have them all turned on with the exception of the following. I have separate engine start disabled because of a bug in IL-2 that messes that up, but that's not really a big deal. I have a couple of exterior views enabled just for the sake of being a little more cinematic, as it were. No instant success is turned off, as is generally recommended with these sorts of campaigns. But other than that, we will be navigating ourselves, using realistic bomb fuses, all that good stuff. And so that's how it's going to be. So let's go into the briefing for this mission. Flight loadout is 8 B-17s with 50% fuel and 8 1,000-pound bombs. 50% fuel because we're not going that far. We're not going to Germany or anything, not this time. Some other time, probably. So, mission 4 out of 25, which is what this is. The first few missions are more or less milk runs. I flew them on my own in the last few days, but this one seemed a little more interesting, so I thought I would feature it. So, we have a special mission today. Based on recon flights this morning, it would appear that a Kriegsmarine heavy cruiser took advantage of the storms over the last several days to dock at Antwerp. Intelligence isn't sure what it's doing there, but suspects that it will try to leave tonight, so this mission has been organized in a hurry. Your orders are to attack the ship. All bombers will use 1,000-pound bombs. We don't have a reconnaissance photo of the ship, but we do have an old photo of where it is apparently docked, and I'll put that up on screen at some point, and I'll have it on my second monitor for reference. So, before I go into the second half of the briefing, there are a few things that I need to explain about how this campaign itself works. So there's a standardized takeoff and forming up procedure for the entire group that goes across. And how it works is, our base is here at Boxstead outside Colchester, but there are several other squadrons based at fields all over this area. And so what we do is we take off from Boxstead and head northeast towards this NDB here, which is on the identifier AC. Or is it AC or no? BO, correction, is the beacon here. From there we turn east and fly most of the way towards this beacon, but not all the way. And again, I have these all in my notes as to what these are, and we'll see indeed what they all are as time goes on. From then we head south to Felixstowe. Waypoint 7 here over this beacon, or at least near it, is the rally point, at which we're expected to be at 16,000 feet and formed up and everything like that. And we're expected to be there at that altitude 20 minutes after takeoff. And so far I've had no trouble really getting formed up properly. So from there, we form up with the rest of the group and head towards waypoint 8, which is the rendezvous point. We have this beacon here, which is beacon FC, according to my notes, which is a pair of Royal Navy destroyers, which are broadcasting that and also provide a helpful landmark. And so once we reach that point, that's the completion of the standard departure. You can almost think of it like a modern standard instrument departure in civil aviation, but sort of, not really. Anyway, and so from there, we have information specific to the mission. So, the heading from the rendezvous point to the initial point, which is here at waypoint 9, is 106 degrees. Flight time, between those two waypoints is approximately 14 minutes. Once we reach the IP, we turn on to a target heading of 090 degrees. After we drop our bombs, we make a left turn. It says right turn in the briefing because whoever writes them seems to get this ass backwards, which is fair enough because I screw that sort of thing up too. We make a left turn, fly through this series of waypoints, and head directly back to the beacon at Felixstowe here. And from there, head back into Boxstead per the series of waypoints shown on the map there. So that's pretty much how this is all going to work. Now, the way in which the bomber formations work in this is that I only actually have direct command of my group of 4, and we can actually form up into any position in the bomber stream that we want to. And so I'll probably just insert myself into the middle and fly in formation with the rest of them, and then drop my bombs on my own site solution. Just so that it's vaguely interesting for the 8 1,000-pound bombs. So, here is my B-17. So B-17F, which would be correct for this period. I have my favorite nose art on it, rolling pin, which you can't see very well, but we'll see it in a little bit. Bomb fuse, going to be instant, and I've actually whacked in a fuse delay of 0.1 seconds because we're bombing a ship. The idea being that it would penetrate through the upper decks of that ship and possibly explode in the hull and maybe open some holes below the waterline is the idea there. So I think that's pretty much everything explained, so without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, welcome aboard my fort. Here she is. We'll just jump inside here and get everything started. So I'll crack the throttles, run the props up to full fine, close, or actually no, cowl flap should be open, mixture to auto rich, and we'll start her up. Obviously on a real B-17 the engines don't all turn over at the same time, but I've disabled separate engine start because of the aforementioned bug, but as a result it'll take the rest of the group just a little bit longer to start up. So bring in our takeoff flaps, lock the tail wheel, and once they have started up, we will get rolling. I do have a set of notes on engine management in the B-17 that I've pulled directly from the actual B-17F manual, which specifies our takeoff power as 46 inches manifold pressure and 2,500 RPM with the mixture and auto rich with the cowl flaps open. This is rated for up to 5 minutes, but we're going to pull it back into max continuous for the climb once we hit 130 miles an hour after takeoff. Alright, everyone's started, so I think we're good to go. So, here goes nothing. Some right rudder to keep her aligned with the runway here. Make sure my elevator trim is vaguely neutral. And coming through 80, 90, 100. I'll ease back a little bit because apparently they liked to do 3-point liftoffs in the B-17. Not entirely sure why, but anyway, there she goes. And we're getting a nice positive rate of climb, so gear up. And we're coming through 130, so I'll bring the flaps in as well, and we'll pull her back into maximum continuous power, which is, as you can see here, 2,300 RPM and 41.5 inches of manifold pressure, but it seems to come slightly further back than that, but oh well. And I will go into a left orbit of the field to let my group of 4 join up, and then I will punch up the NDB that we need to fly to, and we'll be on our way. And they seem to have rolled with some expedition immediately after us. Our typical climb speed in the B-17 is going to be 160 miles an hour. Actually going to throttle back a little bit so that they can catch up a little bit more easily. Alright, number 2 is pretty much turned in here. Keep an eye on 3 and 4, and I think I can pretty much just keep up this rate of turn and we'll be just fine. My prop pitch seems to bounce around a little bit, I'm not sure why. But anyway, I'll make sure I pass over the forts that are still taking off here, actually, will be one thing. So, let's have a look at our map here. Obviously this doesn't update my position, I just have it for reference as to where these waypoints are. So our first beacon of call is going to be BO. There it is. So we'll call that up and keep an eye on our radio compass here. Alright, so now just verify, gears up, flaps are up, all that good stuff. Yeah, we're pretty much configured for climb here, and our group is pretty much formed up, so we're more or less good to go. We're trimmed for climbing at 160. And we're just about coming up on our desired heading here. And I will continue to climb and head for the rally point. Alright, we're approaching the first turn point on the departure procedure. We're about here now. I'm actually going to turn a little bit early and head towards CA so we can cut in front of these guys out here because they are actually supposed to be behind us since they took off after us, just so that we are in order when we arrive at the rally point. Alright, we are just about at our second turning point here. So, this airfield is obviously near the beacon, but we want to be turning slightly before her then. If I jump down into the navigator and bombardier's position here, yeah, we're just about passing over that intersection now. So let's punch up that Felixstowe NDB, which is CM. And we shall turn south and head for the rally point. Alright, we're just passing over Felixstowe now and turning from the rally point towards the rendezvous point. And everyone is pretty much getting formed up, and I'm just going to have to try and pretty much find a spot for myself and stick with it. Is how this is going to work. I've shut off the ADF system because all that crackling is really quite irritating and not all that necessary when the only thing that's really required for navigation at this point is to stay in formation. So, these lot don't seem to have a second element formed up behind them. Would you like one? As long as there isn't anyone right above me or anything. Hope not. We are slightly lower than everyone else. I forgot to close my cowl flaps for a while after takeoff, so we ended up slightly late to the rally point. So what I might actually do is push us up into that 5-minute rated power setting so I can climb up and actually get into a proper spot in the formation. And I'll let my speed drop a little bit since I'm already pretty much in position horizontally. We can do more of a best angle rather than best rate of climb speed. So yeah, we are roughly here, turning this way. Right now is the status navigation-wise. And as I probably alluded to before, the way the bomber formations work in this campaign is a little bit squiffy, mostly due to limitations of how these things work in IL-2, so they don't form up into a perfect combat box formation or anything of the sort. It's a little bit more of a bomber stream, but I do like to try and stay grouped up as close as I can, since the idea of mutual defensive firepower was a big deal and a key to the success of the bombing campaign historically. So, we'll get formed up and be on our way, I think.
There's Charlie doing his twirl again. I wish I had something like that to play with. You guys wouldn't know what to do with a turret if you had one. Took 6 months to teach you how to pull a trigger. Well, it taught us anyway. All right, fellas. Can the smoke so I can keep the intercom open.
Alright, this is the rendezvous point. Those destroyers, good lord, will be down below us somewhere, although I haven't seen them. And the squadron is making a slight left turn towards the initial point. Well, squadron. Group. There are multiple squadrons involved, obviously, as you can well see. But no enemy contact as of yet, which isn't surprising since we're still only partway across the channel here. So that puts us here now. So imagine we'll be pretty much crossing over the coastline in about 10 minutes' time. Well, that's the Belgian coast down there. I can see quite a big airfield. Not sure whether it's an actual operational Luftwaffe base or not. We have not seen a trace of enemy fighters yet, which is pleasant, I suppose. But since we are crossing the coastline now, that means we'll be reaching the initial point quite shortly. And in fact, we might see the lead elements of the formation start to turn pretty soon because unfortunately it has gotten spread out a little bit, but again, this is largely a consequence of limitations of IL-2. Speaking of limitations, the fact that I was slightly late to the rally point does mean that we are in fact tail end Charlie for the entire group, which has me a little bit worried about what might happen if we do encounter enemy fighters, but again, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Now, when it comes to data for the bomb site, I have actually already gone and done some preliminary work in that I've whacked in 19,550, we're actually closer to 19,600 feet now, as our altitude that we'll be bombing from. Now, for the speed for the bomb site, I mean, the figure we want to give it is our true airspeed, not our indicated airspeed. So if we pop up here, just to our airspeed indicator in the cockpit, is showing 190 miles an hour. And obviously, true airspeed changes with pressure. Your indicated airspeed gets a lot lower than your true airspeed as you get higher because the air is thinner and all that. So I have actually pulled out my E6B flight computer, and based on the indicated airspeed, which I'm having to substitute for calculated airspeed because I don't have the B-17 manual in front of me, but it should be close enough, and the outside air temperature, which is also indicated up in the cockpit, I have come up with a true airspeed figure of 253 miles an hour. So I've got, 250 to 260 whacked in, but the real sign, actually, of whether you have your true airspeed and indeed your ground speed calculated correctly, and also whether wind plays any factor into it, is actually once we find the target with the sight here and lock it on to the point where we want to drop our bombs, and see if it actually tracks a specific point on the ground. Because if it doesn't, then we've got something wrong, and that's one of the sure signs of it. But we are not quite that far along yet. What's this little outcropping down here? Actually, that should be this. So yeah, this is the initial point pretty much. Imagine we'll be seeing the lead elements turning in just a second here. Yeah, there they go. Alright, I'll hop back up into the flight deck and we'll be ready to execute that turn as well. Because from there it should only be a few minutes to target, and Antwerp should be, all these various water features should be easy enough to see, and obviously I've studied the reconnaissance photo, although it doesn't include the ship, obviously. We'll have to actually try and pinpoint where that is when we get there. Alright, I'll switch off the autopilot so I can make this turn nice and gently. Oop, rudder's not trimmed very well. Been using rudder trim with the autopilot on to keep our place in the formation, just so I don't have to hand fly the entire time. Obviously we do want to be using the autopilot in the bomb run, since that would be, in an actual B-17, how you would give control to the bombardier to make final and fine adjustments on your way into the target. I'm hoping the target's not obscured by cloud cover in any meaningful way. We'll have to see. Alright, so we roll out on 090, passing the initial point. I will give a few orders to my flight, which is red flight. I'll have them drop their bombs on my command. So when I drop my bombs, so do they. And like I said, also due to limitations, these individual elements all do their own separate bomb drops instead of the entire group bombing on one flight lead from close formation. It's not ideal, but it's still fun. Alright, let's hop back into the bombardier seat. Let's see, Antwerp isn't quite coming into view yet, I don't think. But let's run this out, since it has a fair old bit of magnification to it. And just make sure we're not meaningfully changing heading. And center out that. There we go. 5 minutes to target. I'd imagine we can anticipate a fair bit of flak on our way in, but obviously no enemy fighters seen as of yet, which is always nice. And again, I'm just hitting the... I have the autopilot on, and I'm making minute adjustments with the yaw trim here. I should probably actually hop back up into the flight deck for that so I can see my slip indicator. Uh-oh. Bandits, 12 o'clock. I'm guessing they've been spotted by the lead element, so we might not see them just yet. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes peeled, I guess, and I'll possibly have to jump on this gun here, which is this position, I guess. That gives me a slightly wonky thing. This is the reason why the B-17G got the chin turret, which could cover this entire angle. Oh, there they are. Well, I'll hold my fire until they're in range. No need to waste ammunition. Where are our fighters? One does wonder. I wasn't really paying attention as to where our escorts might be, but no doubt the track I'm recording and will edit in could be somewhat informative on this subject. Come on, bring your left. Uh-oh, someone's going down. See the gunners opening up there. Come on, zero out my rudder trim. Head back into the navigator seat. Ooh, there's Antwerp. Okay, once we get past this cloud here. Actually, no. Target. Yeah, that little outcropping is here, and so the target should be just about here. And I think I can see the ship. Yeah. Uh-oh. The gunner might be opening up, but that's not really my responsibility just now. Let's get the bomb sight ready and bring us over onto target. It seems like the bomber stream might be, a lot of it might be slightly off target to the left, so this might come down to my bombs. Yeah, why don't I say something like that? Help! will switch on my bomb site automation for now, just so it tracks that point, even though we're not very close yet. Any fighters visible from any particularly good vantage points here? Ooh, yes.
Heading 090. Altitude 55. Attention, fighters. 5 o'clock. Attention, approaching target. 1 minute.
This puts me in a tricky position. I should really be in the bomb aimer's position and nothing else. Oh, that's interesting. Let's have a look at this here. Yeah. So, that's definitely it down there, I think. And it does seem to be more or less tracking that point, so I think my true airspeed calculation was on, and probably the wind is not too bad then. Alright. Bomb bay doors opening. And the rest of my group should be doing the same. Alright. Oops. This is gonna have to be my sole focus for now. Alright, lead elements are dropping their bombs. No doubt we'll see them coming down. I don't know, the way that they're off to the left, well, actually no, they should be actually more or less on target. Ooh, wow. Hello. Is that a Hipper class cruiser? I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm pretty sure this mission is fictional unless there was a cruiser that snuck in during the channel dash that I'm not aware of. Wow. That's a big sucker. What is that? Guess as we get closer, I might be able to identify it. Well, anyway, here we go, I guess. We should be mere seconds away from bomb drop. Something vaguely resembling hits of the areas around it going on down there. Come on, keep tracking that target, and bombs are away. And the rest of the group is dropping theirs as well. And I'll just actually stay in my bomb site view so I can gawk at the effect on target, since our next turn point isn't until a little bit after the target. No flak coming up. I'm really surprised. Since there has been a fair bit on previous missions. Oh, don't hide it from me beneath the cloud, you coy universe. Give me a nice view. Oh. Oh, yes. I see some hits on the bow there. Good. Well, even if we don't sink it, it will be no doubt in need of a good deal of maintenance as time goes on. Bomb bay doors closing. And everyone else is closing theirs as well. I'm probably, when the formation makes its next turn, I'm probably going to try and cut the corner a little bit since we're falling behind ever so slightly. I will stay in my tail and Charlie position though, since that is where we formed up, so I might as well. I don't see any of those fighters, which is good. At least in the near term, so yeah. That was an awfully big ship. That looked bigger than a heavy cruiser, but I mean, from altitude, what do I know? We'll have to see later on as to what that actually was, since I have been recording a track for all of this, like I said, so. Oh, and the lead elements are starting to turn, and I'm going to cut inside it ever so slightly. Keep us level here. And the big turn. Ooh, I'm slipping a little bit. I won't try to cut in front of this element, like I said, but we'll get caught up. Maybe even climb a little bit. Shouldn't be descending at any rate. Should be maintaining altitude. Okay, let's be a little bit careful here. Make sure I turn underneath them. Whee! I probably should have turned a little bit tighter, actually. Oh well. And don't descend, damn it. Alright. Should be able to get back into our place from here. And now that everyone's dropped their bombs, it doesn't matter if we're directly below someone. So I might try to actually sandwich myself beneath them and above the next element here. Ooh, we're still descending. Come on, level off. No need for any of that. And neutralize my rudder trim for now and fine tune it once we're on our way again. I mean, we won't be on this leg for very long anyway, so it's not the biggest deal. And the fighters seem to have gone. I'm really quite surprised, but I won't be surprised if they come back, but we'll just have to see. Well, that's the Belgian coast you can see down there again. Our position would be, well, roughly here. There has been no further sign of those fighters, and frankly, I'm shocked that there was no flak over the target. A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one, at least in most ways. I mean, so far as we weren't in very much danger, but on the other hand, it kind of meant there wasn't a huge amount of excitement, but hey. Might not be greatest for production value, but it would be pretty much the desired outcome for an actual crew, so I probably shouldn't complain too much at all. Whoops. So, barring any further contact from contact with the enemy, we are going to make our way back to England and back to Boxstead. Alright, so we are back at Home Sweet Home Boxstead. I've just joined up on the left downwind. We'll get our flaps down to 1/3, I believe, is SOP for the B-17, the downwind, and we'll have the rest of my flight make their own approaches, returning to base. And speed is coming back nicely. Be turning onto the base leg shortly, once that's about 45 degrees behind us. That's good enough. So we'll get the gear out. Flaps go to landing. Keep an eye on my airspeed. Probably keep her to 150 in the turn and then let her slow down back towards sort of 120-ish for approach. Probably touch down around 90 to 100, I think. Should be just fine. We are shaking quite a lot, but we're not overspeeding our gear flaps. Insofar as I'm aware, tail wheel is locked. Throttle back, props full forward, mixture, auto rich, cow flaps. I think actually come to open at this point. And let that speed come back, it's no big worry. Trim her back, and we'll just let her down onto the runway. It's nice and long, so I don't mind if we float for a little bit. Alright, we got field made, power's coming back to idle, and touchdown. I'll get on the brakes, but reasonably gently. There's the tower. And once we've slowed down, I'll just turn off and pick a spot to stop. I have no idea where our designated parking spot is since we started on the runway, so I'll just go somewhere and not really make too many bones about it. Alright, that'll do for now. Unlock the tail wheel and get us turning a little bit. and get us clear of the runway, since we'll have 7 other forts landing here at the very least. Mission complete. Alright. I'll just taxi up to this spot here, how about, and then we'll shut down and finish mission and see if I actually destroyed anything. Alright. We'll just come to a stop here. Oop. Brakes are a little cheesier than I anticipated. We should be in still more or less a decent spot. Yeah. Oh, bring the flaps up. Forgot about that. And shut her down. Alright, that is rolling pins safely home. All 3 other aircraft in my element made it at least. I think 1 or 2 of ours way out at the front of the bomber stream were shot down by enemy fighters, but again, the track I recorded should make that reasonably clear. So, let's get to seeing what the results were. Alright, so it says enemy ground kills 30 here, but those are all from previous missions, so I'm going to have to take it from what I saw that I damaged the ship, but that it wasn't entirely destroyed. So, I do indeed think I can live with that. Since, well, that will necessitate that the ship go into dry dock for a long time, and if it's within range of Allied bombers, I'm sure that someone other than myself, at the very least, will have a chance to have a pot at it again. So yeah, that has been this mission. It wasn't, we didn't face too much enemy opposition, which, again, like I said, can't complain too much about, even though a little more action might have been nice, but at any rate, I hope this has been at least vaguely amusing, and I'll probably do another one of these at some point in the not too distant future. Toodly oodles.